Today in our Waycross studio, we have from the City of Forest Park, Environmental Program Manager, Wright Gwynn.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you.
Because we want to talk about some of the special subsidy programs that the Environmental Awareness Department offers to residents of Forest Park.
Correct.
So let's talk, there's 3 different programs we're going to cover.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with the first one because Forest Park is a tree city. So let's talk about trees.
Okay. We have 2 tree programs. The first one we're going to talk about is called Reforesting Forest Park. And that started around 2018, 17, something like that. And the reason why we started doing a reforesting program is because we had a couple of really severe droughts, and we also had the emerald ash borer coming through, and we have tons of ash trees all through. Apparently, when Forest Park was first developed, there was a sale on ash trees, and so we've got ash trees everywhere. And so the emerald ash borer just had a field day.
It was smorgasbord.
It was.
Okay.
Let's bring our friends along with us. And so all of a sudden I started seeing these dead trees, and one of the public works guys made a comment, says, "Right, you just wouldn't believe how many are dead already." And so he took me out and rode around. I said, "Oh my, I never imagined." And so with that, we said, we have to do something. And so we started a reforesting campaign, but it's not an original thought. The city had an urban forester in the 90s.
Okay.
And her name was Tina, and she had tree sales and things like that. And so in the mid-90s to the late 90s, there was a program already established, but that program ended, and we decided that it was time to bring it back. And so in 2013, 14, 15, or something like that, we decided it's time. And what we wanted to do was basically pick trees every year, different trees. We wanted to diversify what was in Forest Park, because just like the ash tree, we have a ton of ash trees. If you get something that comes in and hits a certain species of tree, and that's the majority of your trees in town, you are going to be hurting. So what we try to do every year is change the species of trees, so that we'll gradually build up a very diverse kind of urban forestry.
Okay, that's interesting, because I've noticed there are different kinds of trees each time, and I didn't realize that that's intentional to make sure that one pest can't hit them all again.
Oh yeah, that's really one of the main reasons why we did it, so we can diversify.
So we talk about it's a subsidy, and what that means is you are making it more affordable for a resident to get more trees in their yard.
Correct.
So a tree that's 5 feet tall that would normally cost, if you just went to the nursery, how much would those cost?
Depending on the tree, we have gotten quotes anywhere from like $65 to $85 for a 5-foot tree.
Okay.
Now, the reason why we're doing 5-foot trees is because one year, my education specialist, when I had one, and you probably remember this, when it's Earth Day or something, they would give kids in schools a little pine tree or something and take home and plant and take care of and everything. Well, I read an article that says about 95% of those get mowed over with a lawnmower. They just don't make it. And so we decided, we need something substantial. We're not an instant tree, but something that's got a good base to it. And so we figured 5, 6-foot trees would be easy to carry. You don't need a big hole. You only need like a 1.5-foot hole, 1.5 feet deep, which isn't bad. And it's, you see it, you're going to notice it, and hopefully you'll care for it, and it'll take off and grow. And within 20 years, it'll be unbelievably beautiful.
So $60 to $80 a tree if you went to a nursery and just bought it on your own.
Right.
For a resident of Forest Park that uses your program, and you only have so many available, so they have to sign up.
Right.
But what will their cost be?
We try to keep it no more than $10.
Okay.
Like $10.50. Some of them were like $9. But if we can keep it in the $10 range, then we're happy.
So much more achievable. How many can they ask for?
They can ask for 2 a year.
Okay.
And if they have a big enough yard, then the next year, if they need another one or another two, then they can go ahead and order the next year too. Now, we have two different kinds of species that we
Okay.
put on to let people order from. We have the canopy trees, which are like 80 feet tall. Over time, they're not going to be instant.
Not when you get them.
Yeah, exactly.
Eventually.
Right. 80, 60, 70, 80 feet tall. And then we have understory trees. So we have two
Okay.
of each every year. So we have 4 total different trees, 2 for each category. And the understory get to be 20, 25, 30 feet tall. So you don't want to put a canopy tree under a power line or right up against your house,
Okay.
because you've got the limbs will be like 20 feet. The diameter of the width of the tree will be, go into your window if you plant it right beside your house. So you got to really look at your yard. What do I want in 10 years? What is it going to look like? Is it going to be too close to the house? Is it going to be too close to something? And then figure out what kind of tree and whether or not we have the tree that they want.
How many of these have your department subsidized already since you started the program?
We have done, I brought some notes. We have done 867 trees to people's private yards, and we've done 107 streets.
That's fantastic. Those
Yeah.
are great numbers.
But I do ride around sometimes and say, that's one of my trees, that's one of my trees, that's one. So I do see, I'm beginning to see them in the front yards.
So how do people sign up for one of these trees?
All they do is, we do have it on our website. So you can go to the Forest Park website, go to the environmental homepage. It's right there on the homepage, Reforesting Forest Park. Click on that, and there's a link to the descriptions of those 4 trees so they can know what they're looking at and what's going to happen over the future. And there are links to learn more about each individual tree. And right below that is a tree order form.
Okay.
And so if they can print out that order form, mark down which trees they want, attach a check or cash to it, and send it to me, that's great. We've had people come in and we do it right in the office. So whichever is more convenient for them is fine. But they have to do a tree order form.
And what's the deadline to order one?
Until they're gone.
Fantastic. So you still have trees left?
I still have trees left. I have oaks, I've got river birch, and I have autumn brilliance. That's the understory. We did have magnolias, but they went
Okay. No
like
more
that.
magnolias.
No
guys.
more magnolias.
And we've been talking about private residences, but what if you are a business owner in Forest Park and you also want to beautify your yard?
The first year we did a business, it was clean lights, and those trees are really taken out. They were bigger trees. We learned that we had to downsize a little bit. So there, yes, businesses, you've got a couple in your front of your business.
Waycross has
Yep.
subsidized trees. Yep.
So if there's a business that would like to have some trees, we just need to get them out and build our urban forest. And if a business feels like they would like a couple trees, yeah, I'd love it.
Okay, that's fantastic. And the practical side of that is, when do they get delivered?
They get delivered early, like the first week in October. Of course, it's weather dependent.
Right.
We let people know when they're coming. I usually go out in September to look at all the trees. We get them from Natorps.
Okay.
And I send out a word saying, if everything goes right, it'll be this day. Make sure you have your hole ready. And like I say, it's only like 1.5 to 2 feet in diameter and maybe 1.5 feet deep. That's all you have to do. Just have it ready. Make sure, though, we do have a link to the utility company to make sure, to make sure you don't dig into a cable. So check, give them a call before you start digging to make sure so they can mark off and let you know where things are. And we'll just put it right there by your garage door, and it's ready to go. And they come in usually 5-gallon buckets, so they're easy to maneuver. We talked to the state forester. We got her involved to help us because we try to get more native trees than ornamental trees.
Yeah.
And I said, what do we need to know to tell the residents? She says, a lot of people think you need to fertilize them. No. The important thing is they have to have water. And she says, you cannot overwater. You cannot stress this enough.
The other side of being a very forested park, as the city's name is at the other end of when trees get big and storms and they have branches and limbs, and sometimes that becomes something to manage. So you have another program that addresses that. Let's talk about that.
Right. Now, this is a little newer program. We started, like I said before, reforesting was like 2014, 15, something like that. This started in 2018. And we really did start seeing a lot of dead trees. I mean, the ash borer really took a toll. But we did have a series of like 3 summers, just severe drought. And the trees just couldn't handle the stress. And all of a sudden, we were looking around saying, oh, there are a lot of trees out here. So I started thinking, what can we do? Because dead trees, they're not safe. You know, after a while, they weaken. They begin to rot in some spots. The roots start decaying. They're not holding the ground. Stiff winds, like you said, could blow them over. Limbs could fall out, hurt somebody. And they need to be taken care of. And some of these trees are huge. I saw some ash trees that I couldn't, it would take 2 or 3 people just to, go around it. And so we started a program. We interviewed some companies, tree companies. We wanted to make sure that the company that we chose was qualified, that had all the insurance known to man in case something happens. And we wanted to make sure that they had an arborist, a certified arborist, because this program is keyed on only dead and dying trees and limbs, not healthy trees. We're not going to cut down. If somebody wants to cut down a healthy tree, they're welcome to do it, but we're not going to help them do that. Yeah. But if it's a hazard or a dangerous tree, then we need it to get it out of there. And so we hired Arborex to be our partner. Well, we didn't hire him. We just agreed to be a partner. Okay. And we're going to cover it with subsidies again to help, because trees are expensive to remove. They're hard. Everybody says, oh, gosh, how much is this tree? I have no idea. If it's a really old tree, they cost more to remove than a really young dead tree, if there is such a thing. If they're close to the house, that's another factor. If they're close to power lines, that's another factor. If they're twisted, that's another factor. And it is in the backyard where you have to put more equipment. Is it tall? There's so many different things. And so we worked with Arborex, kind of sat down and said, okay, what would it take? What are the general estimates for trees? And we came to the conclusion that we would offer a subsidy. We went up on our subsidy this year because we've cut down 266 so far in 5 years. And we've pruned, did limbs and stuff, about 97 trees. And we're getting to the point now that these trees, we've gotten the smaller ones. Now we're getting to the bigger ones.
You got the easier
we've got the easier pickings. And so okay. In fact, I had a meeting with Dave Partons. He's the owner of Arborex, and we sat down yesterday and said, look, we need to probably increase the subsidy because things are getting a little bit more expensive, and things with inflation and everything's kind of gone up. So our subsidy now is a 60% subsidy up to our total cost of $1,000. So let's say the cost of removing a tree is like $1,600. We'll cover $1,000, and the residents will do $600. Now, it's important. A lot of people get confused of whose tree is it? Is it the city's tree or is it our tree and everything? The city's trees are in the right-of-way from the sidewalk to the curb.
Okay.
Those, they don't have to worry about. If they look bad, call Public Works. They'll come in and do whatever needs to be done. We concentrate on private property and the homeowners or renters' trees. We have to talk to, if it's a renter, we have to make sure that we talk to the owner first. Okay. But we deal with trees on properties. And we've had some calls where Dave has gone out, and we'll talk about the process, but he's gone out to look at it because we need to know, is it living or dead? Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's hard. That's to tell. And so he's trained to be able to tell, and he sometimes comes back and says, right, we can't wait. This tree is bad.
Okay.
So, this is what I estimate it's going to be. We can't wait to go through the whole process.
He's
we
looking
need to act
if it's truly a hazard right now.
We need to take care of it. And so we've done a couple of those too, where people call up and say, I know that it's over. The process is over until next year because this is an annual thing that we try to do. Can you look at this tree? Because I am scared to death. So we'll call Dave. Can you have time to go look? And sometimes he says, yeah, we need to look at this.
So what is the process if someone looks in their yard and says that tree is a hazard or might be a hazard? When do they call and how do they sign up? How does it work?
It starts in August.
Okay.
The whole month of August, people need to register. Okay, now they can either register. I have a sheet in the city building lobby that they can write their name, contact information, how many trees, and the location of the trees. We need to know where. Is it in the back, side, or front? How many in these areas? Or they can email me that information, or they can come and talk to me if they have questions. We've done it all, or over the phone. But the whole month of August, we give 30 days to register. And last year we had something like 80 households registering. Okay. Then in September and October, we give this list to Dave, an arborist. He goes out and visits every house. And he looks at the trees. That's why we need to know the location. He looks at the trees and he determines one, is it living or dead? If it's living, it doesn't qualify, but we'll give it an estimate to the people in the house saying this is how much it will cost. If it is dying or dead, then he'll write down what the price is to remove the tree, what the price will be for the resident, and what the Forest Park environmental cost would be so that they know. And it's not a reimbursement plan where the residents pay the total amount and then we find out that they've paid and then we reimburse them. No, the residents will just pay their part. We'll get an invoice from ArborX to pay our part, and so people don't have to really reach into their savings to get something covered. Then the end of November, December, and January, the weather is kind of iffy, so everything, depends on the weather. That's when he goes and does the work. Now, like I said, he removes trees there, but we also expanded last year to include dead and dying limbs. And so that's a tough nut because it's hard to tell a resident where you've got 3 limbs. And so he'll write 3 limbs, and so, but the resident thinking those 3 limbs,
right.
And so it's kind of hairy, but we're getting better at it. And but I was amazed how many households have called up and says, I've got limbs. I want you to look at my limbs. The tree's okay, I think, but the limbs I've got some bad limbs. So we're cleaning that up so at least it looks a little bit more attractive.
So I'll just say one more time, August. August is when you need to go down. You can go to the municipal building and put your name on a list, or you can just call or email, but just remember August.
August.
Is there a limit to how much money you have available for those subsidies?
Yeah, we budgeted like $25,000 a year to do this, and $4,000 for the reforesting to cover those. So yeah, if you really want to do it, I would get your name in. And how long we can do this into the future, we're not sure. We're going to run it as long as we can. And but if you do have an immediate need or you think you will, I recommend that either contacting us or coming by and telling us what you got.
And you talk about this funding. This funding is not from the city coffers. This is, you are responsible for your own funding.
A lot of people don't know this, but we're an enterprise fund. And I worked with the previous city manager in the early 90s to establish this. The environmental board and I decided that, if we were responsible for our own revenues, we would then be able to save anything that we saved every year. We wouldn't have to put it back into the general fund. And so after we tried to save enough for if all hell breaks loose, basically, in 1 year and all our funding goes, we'll have a nest egg of maybe 1 year. And then once we get that 1 year nest egg to operate, then whatever we have left over, we'll put over to the side for these kind of special subsidized programs. And so for 33 years, we've been doing that. It's hard to believe I've been here that long. But so we've collected, we've saved. The environmental board said, yes, this is what we're going to do because we know we're going to need it down the road somewhere. So the reforesting program, the dead and dying tree program, and the next program that we're going to talk about, all these are from the environmental board saying, okay, time to start releasing these funds as long as we can.
Now, there's one more I want to talk about, and that is not about trees. Let's
Exactly.
talk about one
Exactly.
This last one has to do with your attic.
Right.
Let's talk about that.
Okay, attic insulation and air sealing. Okay, it's really a neat program. I love this program. It all started, there was Andy Holzhauser. The name probably no one knows except the people in the energy efficiency field. In the early 2000s, he was a go-getter. He still is. And he was running around everywhere trying to get federal funding because there was money out there. He put together his own organization, Environmental Alliance or Energy Alliances. And he was subsidizing things like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. And so I teamed up with him and I threw in a little bit of money just so, to make myself feel better. And we did over a 3-year period, 149 homes. I mean, it was total house insulation. It was like furnaces, energy efficient furnaces. I mean, it was, and I kept emailing people, take advantage of this. This is golden. You've got to do this if you're ever going to do this. And so, but after 3 years, the money kind of dried up. He had to go a different direction. So we kind of pulled out of the partnership, kind of played around with a few things, and then all of a sudden decided, okay, why don't we in like 2018 get our own contractors? So I called in some contractors, talked to them. We sat down, we agreed to a certain price limit and all this kind of stuff. And so we started putting subsidy money up to help not do the whole house or these utilities or anything like this, a furnace, just attics. Because everything that I've read says that attics, if you're going to do one thing with insulation, do the attic. Because all the heat rises, and if you can insulate it and keep the heat in there, you'll get the biggest bang for your buck. So it's a clean program, attic insulation and air sealing. They're tightening up all the holes where there are air leaks and everything. And the subsidy is 60% subsidy up to our total cost, the environmental program's total cost of $1,500.
Okay.
So if the cost was $2,000 to insulate your attic, our cost, the environmental program's cost, would be $1,200. The residents would be $800, but there's more. There is a tax credit that we encourage people to talk to their tax accountant. I know one of my contractors even puts it on the invoice of what they might be able to get in their tax. They can reduce that by about $300 using this amount.
Okay.
And there's still more. You're saving on your annual or monthly energy bills. And so the cost, if you do get a tax credit, I saw one invoice calculation that out of a $2,000 cost to insulate, they only had to pay $400.
Oh, yeah.
And I was going, really?
I love that. All three of these programs just allow homeowners to do things that help them. It also helps the city, sure. But this one purely helps the homeowner. It
helps the homeowner, but everyone, the environmental program,
right.
That's our thing, the environment. We all have to try to do something to try to calm down all the things that are happening within the environment right now. recycling is important, of course, reducing solid waste, reuse is always. Energy, though, is a big thing because now energy relates to these greenhouse gases that are playing havoc with the climate one way or another, wet, cold, dry, heat, whatever. So I feel like we're part of the solution if we can just keep pushing these. And some communities have called up and asked about how are you doing this? What do we need to know? Maybe we can duplicate this. And so hopefully people will pick some of our programs and modify them to fit their situation, and we can grow. But I think we all need to try to do something if possible.
So from an environmental perspective, a lot of insulated houses means a lot less energy that's needed.
Right.
But I also just love the aspect of let's make it more affordable to get someone's home heating costs down. There's enough expenses.
It's all together.
Yeah.
It's all intertwined. Hopefully we can keep this going. We've got our fingers crossed. Like I say, this is really one of my pet programs we've done. After we ended our partnership with Energy Alliances, and we started our own in 2017 or 18, we have done an additional 177 homes. So we've we have insulated over 300 houses, attics.
That's fantastic.
It's interesting. I asked on the invoice what the insulations are that they go in. What's the existing insulation? And it's something like the R value that's code now is 49. R49. I'm getting R13, R9s, R15. So it's just a pittance of what it could be to insulate a home. So if you can get it up to R49, I've had people call me out of the blue and says, I can feel a big difference.
I think that's a really important point because there are a lot of people watching that might be thinking, I went up in my attic, there's insulation. But if you don't have that R factor, that higher, more modern R factor, it might as well be barely insulated at all. It's not really effectively at the level that's going to save you
money. And if it's old insulation, then that loses its effectiveness as well.
And that's something, I don't think any of us think about that.
Yeah, that's why we have a free assessment.
Okay.
So the way that people can get involved in this is we have 2 contractors. One's Home Energy Services and Cool Time Heating and Air.
Okay.
And you call them up, you ask for a free assessment. They will do a air blow test. They'll hook something up to your door, and they will measure how much air seeps through your house by drawing the air out, and they can record that. Then they go into your attic to see what kind of insulation you have, and also the leaks that you might have, so they can air seal it. And then they'll give you an estimate. They'll give you an estimate of with our subsidy on it and everything. There's none of these subsidies require an income level.
Okay.
So it's open to everybody. Okay, and then they can decide, and once they get the insulation and the air sealing and everything, they'll do another air blow test to see how much the leakage has been reduced.
So for this particular program, how do people get connected to it?
They can call me, and I can send them information. They can go on the website, because it's right there. It's attic insulation and air sealing. It's right on my homepage. Or they can just call directly, Cool Time Heating Air or Home Energy Services. Okay. And just say, I'm from Forest Park, and I've heard about this program, and I want you to come out and give me an estimate.
If someone wants to be on your special environmental email group, how do they get on there?
Call me.
Okay.
Call me. Or drop by and say, hey, or tell a friend, send it to me, and I'll add you to it. Okay. The more the merrier.
So we've talked about Forest Park subsidizing to make it more achievable for residents to have trees in their yard, for residents to take down dead trees or dead limbs that would be safety problems in our yards. Right. And then also for residents to be able to insulate their attics to really help them with their cooling and heating costs.
Right.
So those are 3 fantastic programs the city is offering. You can find out about those again on the website. They get posted on the Facebook page. You'll find them in the emails. I want to thank you for coming in and sharing all this information.